Well, as I mentioned, Scott Morrison has met with world leaders in New York, now Washington, D.C. Up for discussion, among other things, was the new nuclear submarine deal, of course, and what to do about threats from China. But as we edge closer to the federal election, it's worth considering what the future of AUKUS and the sub deal could look like if we end up with a Labor government. And the polls are suggesting it's quite possible. Labor's Foreign Affairs spokeswoman, Penny Wong, today said there are plenty of unanswered questions, and she started to cast a degree of doubt on AUKUS, which was very interesting. Let's bring in Lincoln Parker. He's the chair of the Liberal Party's Defence and National Security Policy branch. Lincoln, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, g'day, Chris. Thanks for having me.
So what is Penny Wong up to here? Here they were embracing in a bilateral way exactly what was being suggested and embraced. And this was a little bit different to what the left wing of the Labor Party would normally do. No nukes in their world, absolutely not. So today she comes out and questions the sovereignty of this. What decisions are we allowed to make in a solo basis on our own, in our own waters? What did you make of what you saw there?
Well, I don't understand it, Chris. And we've just signed the most important defence and national security deal in our history, far more important than ANZUS. And Australia's national security should be bipartisan and supported by all citizens and our representatives. We know what the threat is. We know that the threat is real. It is the most threatening situation that Australia has been in since the late 1930s and the 1940s. And Penny Wong and the Labor government know that. That's exactly why President Joe Biden of the United States, hardly a conservative, and Prime Minister Johnson has got together with our Prime Minister Scott Morrison to forge this deal to keep Australia safe. Now, why is Labor now obfuscating and taking an each-way bet when we are in the most dangerous times and we need to have bipartisanship on our security and on our sovereignty? We had the former Prime Minister of Australia, Paul Keating, going out and saying that AUKUS would lead to a further dramatic loss of the nation's sovereignty. Where does he come up with this? He then had to insult the United States, our closest ally, saying that, the US with all of its might could not beat a bunch of Taliban rebels with AK-47s. And he did this just as we signed this agreement and just as our Prime Minister is in the United States meeting with President Biden and Prime Minister Johnson. I just don't get why the Labor Party is going against our own country at this absolutely vital time when we have made a trilateral security arrangement with two of our closest allies who are going to share the most sensitive nuclear propulsion technology with us, which is no small thing. Now, what are the United States thinking when they hear all of this stuff? And Kevin Rudd came out with saying similar things as well. And Penny Wong, as you mentioned, and she's been all over the airwaves and all over ABC television saying Australia must not abandon its independence. Well, what do you mean we're abandoning our independence? Would you rather us go with China, where the party elders of the Labor Party are now working? I don't think that's what Australian people want.
Okay, well, let's ask the question. Let's ask the question. Then put all of that together. She's obviously putting a foot on either side just in case, and no doubt getting pressure from the left faction of the party who say, what are we getting involved? Why are we approving anything associated with, uranium and nuclear power? And then you've got Albo, who has spent a lifetime, right from when he was young, opposing nuclear anything. Would you think that it is quite feasible that they could get into power at the next federal election and cancel this pact completely?
Absolutely. And that is what is really frightening, Chris. I mean, forget being a Liberal Party member. I'm certainly not a one-eyed party member. Just think about what it means for Australia's sovereignty and our security. I mean, what are they doing playing around with that? Albo mentioned a few days ago that were he to become Prime Minister, that the US-Australia relationship, his number one priority would be climate change. No, as Prime Minister, your number one priority is the security and sovereignty of the Australian people.
Yeah.
And let's look at what the ALP, the official ALP media release on the Australia, United Kingdom, United States trilateral partnership said. So it said, we accept that this technology is now the best option for Australia's capability. Well, does that mean that it may not be the best option later on?
Very good point. Good point. Good reading of it. It's a good reading of something that tells two different stories and gives them an out if they were to get into power and needed to get out with pressure with inside the party. You make some very good points. We've got to keep across that. I've got to run. Lincoln Parker, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much, Chris.